Settle in now, dear listener. Let the weight of the day slowly lift from your shoulders as you sink a little deeper into wherever you are resting. Close your eyes gently, breathe slowly, and allow your thoughts to grow quieter with each passing moment. Tonight, we journey together far back through the corridors of time, into the soft, amber-lit world of ancient clay and forgotten memory, where civilization whispered its earliest secrets into the earth. Let the story carry you, unhurried and peaceful, into the deep past. Within the hushed halls of the British Museum, among its vast Mesopotamian holdings, rest a collection of weathered, uneven clay tablets that may hold one of the most quietly unsettling secrets in all of human history. Among these ancient fragments, two pieces catalogued together as K.11261 and K.13976 form a version of the Sumerian King List, a document that has left scholars quietly bewildered ever since its emergence from the ruins of Ashurbanipal's great library at Nineveh. The text opens with a statement that is as serene as it is staggering in its implications. It speaks of a time when kingship descended from heaven itself, settling first upon the ancient city of Eridu. There, a king named Alulim ascended to the throne and reigned not for decades, not for centuries, but for 28,800 years. The list continues in this same unhurried manner, offering reign after reign of extraordinary duration. Alalgar governed for 36,000 years, Enmenlu Ana for 43,200, and Mengal Ana for another 28,800. These figures stretch across what scholars have long called the antediluvian section of the record, the era before the Great Flood. Modern archaeology has, for the most part, set these numbers aside as the elaborate embellishments of a mythological tradition. Yet, when one looks more carefully and more slowly at the mathematical patterns embedded in these numbers, something altogether more considered comes into view. The figures do not appear random or carelessly invented. They follow precise sexagesimal calculations, a base 60 numerical system, and align with known Mesopotamian astronomical cycles. This suggests that far from being primitive fantasy, these numbers encode something meaningful about humanity's earliest and perhaps most extraordinary condition. Another ancient document deepens this quiet mystery. The Weld Blundell Prism, a four-sided clay object discovered in 1922, lists 10 antediluvian kings whose combined reigns total 456,000 years. When one draws this tablet alongside similar traditions from other parts of the ancient world, the Hindu Puranas describing vast and almost incomprehensible cosmic ages, the Egyptian records of divine pharaohs ruling for thousands of years, the biblical genealogies of patriarchs who lived nearly a millennium before the flood, a pattern begins to take shape that seems to reach across cultures and continents with quiet but persistent consistency. Archaeological excavations at some of the earliest Sumerian cities lend a certain texture to these records that is difficult to dismiss. At Eridu, painstaking work carried out by Fuad Safar and Seton Lloyd between 1946 and 1949 uncovered 18 successive temple levels reaching back to approximately 5,400 BC. The deepest and oldest of these levels contained evidence of architectural knowledge that appears to have arrived fully formed, with no detectable trace of gradual experimentation or development beneath it. The foundations of these early structures incorporated precise astronomical alignments and sophisticated drainage systems that point toward an understanding of mathematics, engineering, and science that, strangely, their successors seemed only to lose over time rather than build upon. The cuneiform tablets that describe the Me, those divine powers and cosmic principles believed to govern all of civilization, provide among the clearest evidence of this slow and systematic erosion. These documents, found primarily among the ruins of Nippur and dating to the early dynastic period, enumerate more than 100 specific Me that once belonged to humanity. The goddess Inanna's mythological journey to obtain these powers from the god Enki reveals their character. They encompassed not only practical abilities like metalworking, agriculture, and writing, but also more elusive qualities. The art of being mighty, the art of being straightforward, and even the passage into the underworld itself. One tablet in particular, CBS 15026, held in the University of Pennsylvania Museum, contains a fragmentary but quietly devastating passage describing how these powers were systematically withdrawn from human civilization. The god Enlil, sovereign of air and earthly authority, is said to have decreed that mortals should retain only those capabilities sufficient for basic survival and reproduction. The remaining powers, the text suggests, would be held in a kind of divine custody until humanity demonstrated itself worthy of their return, a condition which, the tablet implies, was never expected to be fulfilled. The practical consequences of this withdrawal become apparent in the broader archaeological record. Early Sumerian dynastic sites reveal technologies and levels of social organization that later periods appear to have been simply unable to replicate. The standard of Ur, brought to light by Leonard Woolley in the 1920s, depicts military formations and ceremonial processions of a complexity that would have required highly sophisticated systems of communication and coordination. Yet, administrative tablets from later periods show a gradual narrowing, simplified procedures, reduced technical vocabulary, organizational systems growing less intricate with each generation. There is something almost tender about this image. A civilization not conquered, not destroyed, but quietly forgetting itself. Like a song passed from voice to voice across too many generations, the melody remaining while the words grow indistinct, the harmony fading note by note into something simpler, something softer, until only the faintest echo remains. The scribes continued to write. The temples continued to rise. But the knowledge that had animated them, that had given them their original depth and precision, was slowly withdrawing like water receding from a shoreline, leaving behind only the dry impression of where it had once been. The Atrahasis epic, preserved across multiple versions throughout Mesopotamian history, offers perhaps the most explicit and sobering account of humanity's designed condition. Unlike the more widely known flood narrative in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Atrahasis reveals the cyclical nature of human destruction, and more importantly, the reasoning behind it. The epic begins with the great Anunnaki gods fashioning humanity as a workforce, intended to relieve the lesser gods of their burdens. However, the text is careful to make clear that this creation was conceived from the outset as temporary. Humans were designed with inherent constraints, limitations woven into their very nature, that would ensure their eventual decline. The tablet describing human creation speaks of clay mixed with the blood of a slain deity. From this divine blood came the spark of consciousness and capability. But the clay itself, that earthly foundation, carried with it mortality and the seeds of degradation. The text states explicitly that humans were endowed with intelligence sufficient for their designated tasks, but not enough to challenge their creators or attain genuine independence. And crucially, this limitation was not merely physical. It was embedded in the very architecture of human awareness. What makes the Atrahasis narrative most quietly disturbing is its cyclical structure. The epic describes not one, but 3 attempts by the gods to reduce human populations when they grew too numerous or too capable. Plague came first, then drought, and finally the flood, each functioning as a kind of reset, reducing human numbers and restoring capabilities to manageable levels. Each cycle began with survivors who carried fragments of antediluvian knowledge. But with each successive generation, that knowledge faded further until the next reset became necessary, and the cycle began again. Mathematical cuneiform texts from the Old Babylonian period illustrate this degradation in the most concrete of ways. Early tablets demonstrate a sophisticated grasp of quadratic equations, geometric progressions, and astronomical calculations of a kind that would not surface again in European thought until the Renaissance. Later, Mesopotamian mathematical texts approached the same problems with increasingly simplified tools, suggesting that the scribal schools were losing touch with the theoretical foundations that had made such precision possible in the first place. They were, in a sense, copying answers without fully understanding the questions. The ancient city of Uruk offers particularly compelling evidence for this pattern of systematic knowledge loss. During the Uruk period, the world's first urban civilization emerged, complete with monumental architecture, complex administrative systems, and the earliest known examples of writing. The Anu Ziggurat complex demonstrates a level of architectural sophistication that required deep understanding of engineering principles, load distribution, and the behavior of materials. And yet, as one examines the later levels of the same city, a curious reversal appears. Temple reconstructions become plainer. Administrative records grow simpler. Artistic representations shed their naturalism in favor of more stylized, less demanding forms. This was not the result of invasion or catastrophe. The city itself continued without disruption. The evidence suggests something quieter and more insidious, an internal erosion of knowledge and capability proceeding steadily and silently across generations. The White Temple at Uruk, dating to approximately 3200 BC, illustrates this phenomenon with particular clarity. Its construction required precise calculation of weight loads, sophisticated understanding of how to build stable foundations in marshy ground, and the coordination of large numbers of workers over extended periods. Contemporary tablets from the site show that the builders understood mathematical principles, including what is now known as the Pythagorean theorem, long before Pythagoras himself lived. Yet temples constructed at the very same site only centuries later show simpler techniques and more modest design ambitions. The royal cemetery at Ur, excavated by Woolley between 1922 and 1934, adds yet another quiet layer to this story. The tomb of Queen Puabi contained artifacts demonstrating metallurgical techniques that later Mesopotamian craftsmen simply could not replicate. The golden helmet, known as the Helmet of Meskelamdug, reveals a sophisticated understanding of metal properties, heat treatment, and decorative methods that require generations of carefully accumulated knowledge to develop. Analysis of the cemetery's stratigraphy suggests that these advanced techniques were already old when Puabi's tomb was constructed. Earlier graves contained even more refined objects. Later royal burials grew progressively simpler. Political and economic continuity did not prevent the gradual loss of technical mastery. Eridu, that oldest of cities, perhaps offers the most dramatic testimony. Its earliest temple levels, designated by archaeologists as temples 16 through 18, incorporate architectural principles that modern engineering analysis has only recently been able to fully appreciate. The foundations employed an intricate system of interlocking chambers designed to distribute weight across unstable, marshy terrain. The builders understood soil mechanics, hydrostatics, and structural engineering at a level that seems almost incongruous with what we conventionally imagine of early civilization. Cuneiform tablets associated with these deepest levels contain technical vocabulary that later scribes could not interpret. Administrative documents from the same period reveal organizational systems of remarkable intricacy, specialized roles, hierarchical structures, management principles that suggest a civilization of considerable sophistication. Tablets from later periods at the same site show, by contrast, increasingly simplified language and progressively reduced administrative complexity. This pattern of erosion extends far beyond individual sites. Early dynastic tablets reference scientific and technical knowledge that later periods treated not as inherited wisdom, but as mysterious and divine, something beyond ordinary comprehension. Medical texts from Nippur describe surgical procedures and pharmaceutical preparations that required genuine understanding of anatomy, chemistry, and biological processes. Later medical texts lean increasingly on magical incantations and simplified treatments, indicating that the empirical foundation of earlier medicine had been quietly lost. The literary record tells a similar story. Sumerian poetry from earlier periods demonstrates complex metaphorical thinking and abstract conceptual sophistication that later periods could not sustain. When later scribes copied earlier works, they frequently simplified the language or added explanatory notes, as though the original meaning had grown partially opaque to them, like sunlight filtered through thickening clouds. This documented pattern of linguistic and intellectual decline becomes still more unsettling when considered alongside the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, which preserves what may be humanity's most direct account of artificial genesis. Careful reading of the original Akkadian reveals not spontaneous creation, but what the text describes in terms that recall deliberate, methodical manufacture. Human beings in this account were not born. They were produced. The process was iterative, involving multiple failed attempts before arriving at a viable result. Tablet 6 of the Enuma Elish describes how Marduk and Ea collaborated to create the first humans from the blood of the slain god Kingu. The Akkadian word used to describe the mixing process appears elsewhere in technical and alchemical contexts to denote the precise combination of substances in specific proportions. The creation required 14 attempts. The first 13 produced flawed prototypes that were destroyed. Only the 14th iteration yielded viable humans, but these carried within them limitations designed to prevent them from ever achieving divine status. The Atrahasis epic offers complementary details. The mother goddess Nintu shaped clay infused with divine essence, but the text is careful to emphasize that this divine component was measured and deliberately constrained. The Akkadian phrase Illumatati, meaning the measured portion of divinity, appears repeatedly, not as poetic ornament, but as what reads like precise technical terminology, describing a carefully calibrated biological dosage. Archaeological evidence from Nippur supports these accounts in material form. Cylinder seals discovered there depict the creation process in remarkable detail. One seal impression, V A243, housed in the Vorderasiatisches Museum in Berlin, shows humanoid figures being shaped by beings with distinctively elongated heads, using advanced tools alongside what appear to be measuring devices and containers, suggesting careful proportioning of materials. Similar seals from Ur and Babylon present variations of the same scene, each emphasizing the controlled, artificial, and purposeful nature of human creation. The Sumerian word Adamu, from which the biblical Adam is derived, appears in numerous ancient contexts that illuminate its original meaning, not as simply the first man, but as a manufactured being. Administrative tablets from the Ur III period use Adamu to distinguish artificially created workers from naturally born humans, describing specific built-in capabilities and deliberate limitations, enhanced physical strength for labor, but reduced cognitive capacity for abstract reasoning and long-term planning. Tablet CBS 14061 from the University of Pennsylvania collection contains a fragmentary but significant passage describing the genetic engineering process in what appears to be technical language. It speaks of mixing the essence of the Anunnaki with the clay of the earth, following specific procedures that required precise timing and controlled environmental conditions. The tablet mentions repeated failures, attempts that produced beings either too intelligent, threatening their creators, or too limited, incapable of performing required tasks. The successful formula achieved exactly the right balance: capable enough to be useful, limited enough to remain manageable. The Babylonian Theodicy, a wisdom text dating to approximately 1000 BC, reflects on the psychological and spiritual consequences of this designed condition. Unlike later philosophical works that trace human suffering to moral failings, this text states clearly that the gods intentionally created humans with internal contradictions and impossible desires. The Akkadian phrase describes how conflicting impulses were made to dwell within the human heart, impulses that would forever prevent genuine satisfaction or unity of purpose. One cylinder seal from the Pergamon Museum depicts what appears to be genetic manipulation actively in progress. The relief shows Anunnaki figures working with what appear to be biological materials, using precision implements suggesting work at a very small scale. One figure appears to hold something resembling a double helix structure, while another manipulates forms that suggest cellular matter. The scene includes instruments of measurement and observation, conveying systematic experimentation rather than divine magic. The Akkadian text, known as the Dialogue of Pessimism, preserves what may be direct human testimony about this designed condition. A master and servant discuss the futility of human ambition across a series of exchanges in which the servant repeatedly demonstrates that every human endeavor is ultimately undermined by built-in limitations. The master's responses suggest a quiet, resigned awareness that these limitations were not accidental, but intentional. Sumerian administrative tablets from Drihem, a redistribution center for temple goods, record different categories of humans with varying capabilities. The texts distinguish between the Adamu, the manufactured workers, the Awilu, naturally born humans, and the Sag, a hybrid category apparently representing successful interbreeding between the two. These documents suggest that the Anunnaki maintained careful records of human genetic lineages and their respective characteristics. The Mesopotamian flood narratives, examined across their multiple versions, reveal a pattern of cyclical genetic resets rather than a single catastrophic event. The Sumerian King List describes more than one flood, each followed by periods in which human capabilities were systematically reduced. The Atrahasis epic states explicitly that these floods served as mechanisms of population control, eliminating humans who had exceeded their designed parameters and preserving only those who remained within acceptable limits. A passage in Tablet 11 of the Epic of Gilgamesh describes the flood survivor Utnapishtim receiving specific divine instructions for preserving certain genetic lineages while allowing others to perish. The text speaks of seeds of all living things being preserved according to precise divine specifications, suggesting selection based on genetic criteria rather than moral character. This selective survival ensured that the humans who emerged after the flood would lack the accumulated knowledge and capabilities of their predecessors. The slate had been wiped clean, though not entirely. Archaeological evidence from Tel Es Sawan, a Neolithic site in Iraq, reveals sophisticated understanding of selective breeding that appears to predate known agricultural development by thousands of years. Excavations led by Fuad Safar uncovered storage facilities containing seeds showing evidence of modification through techniques that modern science would not rediscover until the 20th century. The site also yielded instruments that appear designed for biological manipulation, including implements of remarkable precision that suggest intervention at the cellular level. The Assyrian version of the creation epic, preserved in tablets from Ashurbanipal's library, includes additional details about the ongoing manipulation of human genetics. The text describes how the Anunnaki maintained facilities in which they continued to adjust human capabilities throughout history, modifying intelligence levels, physical strength, and reproductive capacity according to changing needs. This was not a single act of creation followed by divine withdrawal, but an ongoing management program. Cuneiform tablets from Babylon describe a caste system that appears to have been rooted not in social convention, but in biology. The texts distinguish between humans possessing different degrees of divine essence, ranging from the Ailu, who retained significant capabilities, to the Mushkinu, who were deliberately limited in intelligence and ambition, and the Wardu, the most constrained of all, designed specifically for manual labor with minimal cognitive development. The Enuma Elish describes how Marduk established the 50 names, which later texts reveal as genetic templates or archetypes defining different categories of human capability. Each name corresponded to specific traits and limitations, creating a systematic biological classification that determined an individual's potential from the moment of birth. This was not social stratification. It was biological architecture. Cylinder seals from the Neo-Assyrian period depict what appear to be procedures of genetic evaluation. One relief shows Anunnaki figures examining humans with instruments suggesting biological analysis, alongside recording tablets that indicate systematic documentation of human genetic variation and its effects on behavior and capability. Medical texts from the Neo-Babylonian period describe inherited conditions that appear to be deliberately engineered limitations rather than natural disorders. Symptoms include progressive loss of cognitive function, inability to retain complex information, and compulsive deference to authority figures. These conditions appear to affect entire family lines and are described as being triggered by environmental factors under divine influence. The Assyrian King List includes rulers said to have been selected through processes resembling genetic testing, rather than political succession. These kings demonstrated capabilities exceeding normal human limitations, suggesting concentrations of divine genetic material. However, their enhanced capabilities always carried built-in termination points, ensuring that no human lineage could accumulate too much divine essence across generations. Temple archives at Sippar contain genealogical records tracking genetic traits across many generations, showing systematic patterns of capability enhancement and limitation. Families displaying signs of exceeding their designed parameters were subjected to interventions that reduced their children's capabilities. Lines falling below minimum standards received what the texts call divine intervention, a gentle elevation back toward acceptable function. The cumulative picture that emerges from these sources is quietly extraordinary. Human limitation, in this reading, was not an accident of natural evolution. It was a carefully engineered feature, designed to ensure permanent subservience within a cosmic hierarchy that regarded human consciousness as a managed resource rather than an independent development. The Anunnaki did not simply create workers. They created a managed species whose capabilities could be adjusted as needed, and whose potential for genuine independence was constrained through genetic programming that operated across multiple generations and multiple civilizational cycles. The genetic manipulation programs described in Mesopotamian records find their most expansive parallel in the Hindu concept of cyclical time, particularly in the Kali Yuga, the Age of Darkness, representing humanity's inevitable descent into spiritual and intellectual diminishment. The Sanskrit texts that describe this cosmic cycle were not isolated philosophy, but part of a broader, ancient body of knowledge that preserved warnings about humanity's designed obsolescence across cultures and continents. The Vishnu Purana, composed between 300 and 500 AD, but claiming to preserve far older oral traditions, describes the Kali Yuga as a period of progressive diminishment. Shorter lifespans, reduced physical stature, narrowing mental capacity, and fading moral understanding, unfolding until divine intervention becomes necessary to reset the cycle. The mathematical precision of the Yuga system reflects sophisticated astronomical knowledge with striking parallels to Sumerian calculations. According to the Surya Siddhanta, one of the earliest surviving Sanskrit astronomical texts, the complete cosmic cycle spans 4,320,000 years, divided into 4 yugas of decreasing duration and declining human capability. The Satya Yuga lasted 1,728,000 years. The Treta Yuga, 1,296,000. The Dvapara Yuga, 864,000. And the current Kali Yuga spans 432,000 years. These numbers are not chosen arbitrarily. They are precise calculations based on astronomical cycles, the precession of the equinoxes, planetary conjunctions, and galactic alignments. When compared to Sumerian chronological systems, the correspondence is striking. The Sumerian Sar cycle of 3,600 years, multiplied by 120, yields exactly 432,000 years, a perfect match for the duration of the Kali Yuga. The antediluvian king's reigns, when calculated using the sexagesimal system, align with specific phases of the Hindu cosmic cycle. This mathematical correspondence suggests that both civilizations were preserving knowledge of the same underlying temporal framework, one that described humanity's programmed decline across vast periods of time. The Mahabharata's Vanaparva contains descriptions of the Kali Yuga's characteristics that read less like prophetic poetry and more like technical specifications. Human lifespans will decrease from an original 100,000 years to a maximum of 100. Physical stature will diminish dramatically. Mental capacity will narrow until humans are unable to comprehend complex philosophical or scientific ideas. And crucially, the text states that this degradation is not caused by environmental factors or moral failures, but represents the activation of limitations embedded in human nature during the original act of creation. The Linga Purana provides even more specific detail about the mechanisms of this decline. Chapter 40 describes how the human constitution, though not using modern terminology, contains dormant sequences that activate progressively during different yugas, limiting cognitive function, capability, and spiritual awareness. During the Kali Yuga, the quality of tamas, darkness, comes to dominate, causing humans to become increasingly materialistic, short-sighted, and incapable of abstract reasoning. Scattered throughout the Sanskrit traditions, one finds quieter texts that speak of the same decline in softer, more intimate terms. The Bhagavata Purana describes communities of scholars who once gathered beneath great trees to recite the entirety of accumulated human knowledge from memory, not as an act of scholarship, but as naturally as breathing, because the capacity for such recall was simply part of what it meant to be human in an earlier age. As the Kali Yuga advanced, these texts note with a kind of calm sorrow, the gatherings grew smaller. The recitations grew shorter. The trees remained, but fewer and fewer people sat beneath them, and those who did could remember less with each passing generation. Archaeological evidence from the Indus Valley civilization lends a grounded material dimension to these accounts. Excavations at Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, conducted between 1920 and 1931 by John Marshall and subsequent teams, revealed urban planning and engineering capabilities that would not be surpassed in the Indian subcontinent for millennia. The cities featured sophisticated sewage systems, standardized weights and measures, and architectural techniques requiring advanced mathematical knowledge. And then, with quiet finality, these capabilities vanished entirely, leaving no trace in later building traditions until far simpler techniques were gradually and independently redeveloped. The Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro demonstrates construction requiring mastery of waterproofing, structural engineering, and hydraulic principles that would not be equaled in the region until the Mughal period, more than 3,000 years later. The structure used a complex system of bitumen waterproofing and precisely fitted bricks, creating watertight joints without mortar. The engineering knowledge required was remarkable. Its disappearance was complete. The Harappan script, with over 4,000 discovered specimens, remains undeciphered despite decades of scholarly effort. Statistical analysis reveals linguistic complexity exceeding that of many contemporary writing systems, employing over 400 distinct symbols in combinations that suggest sophisticated grammatical structures and abstract conceptual vocabulary. The subsequent inability of Indian civilizations to preserve or understand this writing system suggests not gradual evolution, but sudden and total collapse of intellectual capacity, as though a door had closed firmly and permanently. The Mesopotamian flood narratives gain new resonance when considered alongside similar accounts from civilizations across the ancient world, accounts that describe cyclical destruction not as random catastrophe, but as deliberate mechanism, a maintenance procedure applied whenever human civilization approached dangerous levels of knowledge and coordination. These were not, the evidence suggests, independent cultural inventions. They appear to preserve the memory of coordinated global interventions designed to reset human civilization whenever it drew too near the boundaries of what its creators deemed acceptable. The Egyptian Edfu texts, carved on temple walls during the Ptolemaic period, but claiming to preserve pre-dynastic traditions, describe cyclical destructions called Zep Tepi, the first times when divine beings intervened to prevent humans from achieving technological and spiritual advancement that would threaten cosmic order. The hieroglyphic accounts specify that these resets occurred according to astronomical cycles, with each intervention timed to coincide with specific celestial alignments. The Sumerian King List, discovered in 1822 and dating to the reign of Rameses II, preserves records of pre-dynastic Egyptian rulers who allegedly reigned for thousands of years. Like the Sumerian King List, these figures appear to encode information about humanity's original condition. The list describes the Shemsu Hor, the followers of Horus, as divine rulers who governed Egypt for 13,420 years before the first mortal pharaoh. Mathematical analysis reveals that this figure corresponds to precisely half a precession cycle, suggesting sophisticated astronomical knowledge embedded within the chronological record. Papyrus Harris I, housed in the British Museum, refers to cyclical destructions that periodically reset Egyptian civilization. The gods, the text explains, sent disasters to cleanse the land of those who had grown too wise, restoring proper hierarchical relationships between divine and human realms. These were not natural catastrophes, but deliberate interventions, designed to eliminate those who had accumulated excessive knowledge or developed capabilities beyond their permitted range. The pyramid texts carved into the burial chambers of Old Kingdom pharaohs contain technical astronomical descriptions that later Egyptian civilizations could not comprehend. They reference stellar calculations, planetary movements, and cosmic cycles with mathematical precision requiring advanced understanding of celestial mechanics. Middle Kingdom astronomical texts show dramatically simplified approaches to the same calculations, indicating systematic loss of the theoretical foundations that had made Old Kingdom astronomy possible. Among the most quietly evocative of all Egyptian records are the fragments describing a period before the first mortal dynasties, when, according to priestly tradition, humans and divine beings shared the same sacred sites without distinction. The texts describe temples whose inner chambers were accessible to all in that earlier age. Spaces of shared knowledge, where the boundaries between human and divine comprehension had not yet been drawn. Later texts refer to these spaces only as places of mystery, their original purposes forgotten, their inner rooms sealed against all but the highest initiates. The knowledge that had once been common had become esoteric. What had been ordinary had become sacred simply by virtue of being no longer understood. The Mayan codices add additional weight to this pattern of coordinated cyclical resets. The Dresden Codex, dating to the 11th or 12th century AD, but preserving much older astronomical data, describes cyclical destructions occurring according to precise mathematical calculations. The Mayan long count calendar, tracking cycles of 1,872,000 days, was not simply a chronological system, but a countdown mechanism marking intervals between global interventions. The Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Quiche Maya, describes multiple creations and destructions of humanity, each iteration correcting perceived flaws in the previous version. The first humans were destroyed because they became too intelligent and began to rival divine knowledge. The second creation was eliminated because humans developed technologies that threatened cosmic stability. Only the third creation, current humanity, was designed with limitations sufficient to ensure permanent subservience. Mayan astronomical texts demonstrate mathematical sophistication that required understanding of complex celestial cycles extending millions of years into both past and future. The Venus table in the Dresden Codex calculates planetary positions with an accuracy that European astronomy would not match until the development of modern instruments. And yet, Spanish colonial records describe the Maya as having already lost much of this knowledge by the time of European contact, later generations unable to understand or maintain the astronomical system their predecessors had built. The Aztec legend of the Five Suns describes cyclical destructions that eliminated previous versions of humanity when they exceeded their designed parameters. Each sun represented a different human creation, with specific capabilities and corresponding weaknesses. The current fifth sun was designed with built-in obsolescence, humans who would inevitably destroy themselves through warfare, environmental degradation, and spiritual corruption, eliminating the need for direct divine intervention. Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime stories preserve accounts of cyclical destructions that reset human civilization according to cosmic law. The rainbow serpent legends describe how this entity periodically swallows human knowledge and capabilities, leaving survivors with only the most basic skills necessary for continued existence. These stories specify that the resets occur according to astronomical cycles, with the rainbow serpent responding to celestial signals that indicate when human development has exceeded acceptable parameters. The Hopi prophecies of the American Southwest describe 4 previous worlds destroyed when humanity became too materialistic and technologically advanced. The current 5th world is predicted to end when humanity again develops technologies that threaten natural balance. The prophecies specify that these destructions are not punishments but necessary corrections, designed to prevent humans from achieving capabilities that would disrupt cosmic harmony. Norse mythology's concept of Ragnarok describes a cyclical destruction and renewal that eliminates accumulated human knowledge and resets capabilities. The Prose Edda specifies that Ragnarok is not a single apocalyptic event, but part of an endless cycle, civilizations rising to predetermined limits before being reduced to primitive conditions once more. Survivors of each Ragnarok retain only basic knowledge, ensuring that dangerous technologies and spiritual practices are lost. Chinese historical records preserved in the Bamboo Annals describe cyclical periods of chaos and renewal that eliminate advanced civilizations and return survivors to elemental conditions. The concept of the mandate of heaven encoded knowledge about cosmic cycles requiring the periodic elimination of excessive human development. Specific astronomical signs herald these transitions, indicating a systematic rather than random occurrence. The Vedic concept of pralaya, cosmic dissolution, describes how accumulated human achievement must be periodically destroyed to prevent disruption of cosmic order. The Bhagavata Purana specifies that these dissolutions occur according to mathematical principles, with each cycle precisely calculated to eliminate human development before it reaches critical thresholds. These cross-cultural accounts, taken together, suggest a coordinated global system designed to prevent human civilization from advancing beyond predetermined limits. The cyclical destructions were not natural disasters or divine punishment. They were maintenance procedures, ensuring that humans remained within acceptable parameters of knowledge, capability, and spiritual development. The mathematical precision of these cycles across vastly different cultures points toward sophisticated coordination by entities possessing comprehensive understanding of human psychology, social development, and technological progression. The astronomical knowledge embedded in these cyclical systems demonstrates awareness of cosmic forces and temporal frameworks that exceed current human understanding. The precision with which ancient civilizations calculated these cycles suggests access to information sources and analytical capabilities that their descendants systematically lost, not through the natural forgetting of cultural evolution, but through deliberate elimination of knowledge designed to maintain humanity's subordinate position within a larger cosmic hierarchy. The cyclical destruction patterns, documented across ancient civilizations, reached their most explicit articulation in the Sumerian accounts that later became the biblical Tower of Babel narrative. The original cuneiform sources reveal this was not a simple story about divine punishment for human pride, but a detailed record of systematic intervention designed to prevent humanity from achieving unified consciousness and technological capability that would threaten established cosmic hierarchies. Tablet K.3657 from Ashurbanipal's library contains the earliest known version of this account, describing events during the reign of Nimrod around 2100 BC, when human civilization had recovered sufficiently from the most recent flood reset to begin approaching dangerous levels of coordination and knowledge once again. The Akkadian text uses the word Bab Ilu, Gate of the Gods, but the fuller context reveals this referred to a technological project rather than an architectural marvel in the conventional sense. The tower described in these sources was not merely tall. It was designed as a communication and coordination center, something that would allow humans across the known world to share information instantaneously and coordinate their activities on a global scale. Cuneiform tablets from Babylon describe the structure as incorporating crystalline components capable of transmitting signals across vast distances, effectively the world's first telecommunications network. Excavations at Birs Nimrud, the historical ziggurat complex in Babylon, have revealed foundation remnants that lend some material weight to these ancient accounts. German Oriental Society expeditions between 1899 and 1917, led by Robert Coldaway, uncovered evidence of sophisticated systems integrated into the structure's foundations. Copper conduits running throughout, connecting to chambers containing what appeared to be primitive electrical systems using bitumen, copper, and iron components, similar in concept to the Baghdad battery discovered at Kujut Rabu. The ancient texts describe an era when all humans communicated through a single noble language, a sophisticated system combining verbal, gestural, and what the texts suggest were telepathic elements. This was not primitive speech, but an advanced form of direct consciousness-to-consciousness transmission, allowing complex technical and philosophical ideas to be shared with perfect clarity across vast distances. Linguistic analysis of the earliest Sumerian, Egyptian, and Indus Valley scripts reveals evidence of a shared structural foundation. Despite their geographical separation, these writing systems employ fundamental principles that suggest common origin rather than independent development. The Enuma Elish describes how this unified communication system threatened established cosmic order by enabling humans to coordinate and share knowledge at unprecedented scales. The Akkadian phrase Ka Ilani, meaning like the gods, appears repeatedly, indicating that unified human consciousness was approaching parity with its creator's capabilities. Mesopotamian astronomical texts from this period demonstrate the practical results of unified human communication. The Venus tablet tracks celestial positions across thousands of miles with a timing precision that demanded instantaneous communication between distant observation points. The Babylonian map of the world, dating to the 6th century BC, but preserving much older geographical knowledge, shows awareness of global geography that could only have been accumulated through coordinated exploration and real-time sharing of navigational data. The intervention that dismantled this unified system is described across multiple Mesopotamian sources with consistent technical details. One Akkadian text describes the deployment of overwhelming agents that disrupted the neural pathways responsible for complex communication and abstract reasoning. Not physical weapons, but sophisticated biological agents that altered human brain chemistry and eliminated the telepathic capabilities that had enabled global consciousness networks. Cuneiform medical texts describe the symptoms of this intervention with clinical precision. One tablet from the Kuyunjuk collection describes a condition called Michit Shah Ili, the divine falling, characterized by sudden loss of linguistic ability, inability to comprehend abstract concepts, and breakdown of advanced communication skills. The text specifies that this condition affected entire populations simultaneously, spreading through communities within days without any apparent physical transmission mechanism. The fragmentation of human language was not gradual evolution, but systematic destruction of unified communication capability. Sumerian lamentation texts describe how different human groups suddenly found themselves unable to understand one another, even when using the same words. The intervention did not simply create different languages, it altered consciousness itself, making unified thought and coordinated action impossible even among people who shared common vocabulary and cultural background. Archaeological evidence confirms the sudden nature of this fragmentation. Excavations at Çatalhöyük in Turkey revealed a clear stratigraphic break around 6000 BC, where unified artistic and architectural styles abruptly gave way to diverse regional variations. Earlier levels show consistent symbolic systems, construction techniques, and artistic motifs across the entire site. Later levels show rapid diversification into distinct cultural groups with incompatible symbolic systems and technological approaches, as though a single, coherent world had quietly and irrevocably broken apart overnight. The tablets of destiny mentioned across Mesopotamian sources were not mythological artifacts, but technical manuals for maintaining cosmic order through controlled limitation of human capabilities. Tablet K.3454 from the British Museum contains fragments describing these tablets as containing divine ordinances, Simat Ilani, specifying the maximum levels of knowledge, technology, and social coordination that humans would be permitted to achieve in each historical period. The Enuma Elish describes how Marduk obtained the Tablets of Destiny after defeating Tiamat, granting him authority to establish the laws governing human development. These tablets contained detailed specifications for limiting human consciousness, maximum population densities, permitted levels of technological sophistication, and communication capabilities that would be allowed before intervention became necessary. They were not simply rules, but technical manuals for managing human civilization as a controlled system. Assyrian royal inscriptions describe how selected rulers were granted temporary access to portions of these tablets, enabling capabilities beyond normal human limitations for specific periods. The Annals of Sargon II describe enhanced abilities, coordinating military campaigns across vast distances, maintaining real-time communication across an empire, that were always temporary and always withdrawn once specific objectives had been met. The systematic suppression of advanced technologies following the Babel intervention is documented across multiple archaeological sites. Throughout Mesopotamia, evidence of sophisticated manufacturing techniques, precision metalwork, and complex chemical processes vanishes completely within generations of the linguistic fragmentation. The technologies were not gradually replaced. They simply disappeared, leaving no trace in subsequent cultural traditions, as though they had been lifted quietly and completely from the world. Excavations at Telesoan revealed workshops containing precision instruments for manufacturing electronic components from organic materials, equipment for growing crystalline structures, processing conductive metals, and creating complex chemical compounds requiring understanding of molecular chemistry. Carbon dating places these workshops at approximately 6000 BC. The techniques they employed would not be rediscovered until the 20th century. The workshops show signs of hasty abandonment, valuable equipment left in place, as though the operators had been required to leave immediately and without preparation. Among the most poignant details recovered from these abandoned workshops are the unfinished objects left mid-process, vessels half-formed, instruments partially assembled, calculations begun on clay and never completed. There is something in these frozen moments of interrupted work that speaks more quietly than any inscription. People who had spent lifetimes mastering their craft simply set down their tools one day and did not return. Whatever had been building in those rooms, whatever ancient and careful knowledge had guided those hands, departed without ceremony or recorded farewell. The Sumerian epic of Enmerkar and the Lord of Arada describes the period immediately following the linguistic fragmentation, when human civilizations struggled to maintain technological and social systems designed for unified consciousness. Complex manufacturing processes failed because they required coordination between specialists who could no longer communicate effectively. Administrative systems collapsed because their record-keeping and planning procedures had assumed telepathic communication capabilities that humans no longer possessed. Mesopotamian economic texts from the Ur III period document the practical consequences of this communication breakdown. Administrative archives contain thousands of tablets showing increasingly simplified economic procedures, as bureaucrats struggled to maintain complex distribution systems without the communication capabilities those systems required. Early tablets show sophisticated mathematical calculations and multivariable optimization procedures. Later texts from the same archives show progressively cruder approximation methods and simplified administrative categories, a quiet, gradual narrowing of what was possible. The fragmentation extended beyond language to fundamental alterations in human consciousness and social organization. Cuneiform texts describe specific modifications that eliminated human capacity for direct mind-to-mind communication and intuitive understanding of complex mathematical relationships. Humans became dependent on external tools and symbols for information processing that they had previously performed through direct conscious manipulation of data. This dependency was not the voluntary adoption of convenient technologies. It was compensation for deliberately eliminated cognitive capabilities. The intervention included systematic destruction of technological infrastructure designed for unified human consciousness. Mesopotamian texts describe the collapse of global communication networks, transportation systems, and manufacturing facilities that could not function without the telepathic coordination of their operators. The destruction was not warfare or natural disaster. It was systematic elimination of technologies that required capabilities humans were no longer permitted to possess. Archaeological evidence from Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro reveals similar patterns of sudden technological collapse coinciding with the linguistic fragmentation period. The city's sophisticated water management systems, precision manufacturing facilities, and standardized quality control procedures all ceased functioning simultaneously around 1900 BC. The collapse was not gradual decline under external pressure. It was immediate cessation of complex technological systems, as though a switch had been quietly turned off. The systematic suppression documented in the Babel intervention represents only the most visible aspect of a broader conflict between humanity's creators and a faction of divine beings who violated cosmic law by sharing advanced knowledge with their human subjects. The Mesopotamian sources identify these rebellious entities as the Igigi. Later, Enochian literature refers to them as the Watchers, divine beings assigned to observe and manage human development, who instead chose to accelerate human evolution beyond predetermined limits. Tablet BM 46282 from the British Museum's Babylonian collection contains the earliest known account of this rebellion. It describes how 200 Watchers descended to Mount Hermon around 3000 BC and began systematically transferring advanced technologies and esoteric knowledge to selected human populations. The Akkadian text uses the word Apkallu to describe these beings, divine advisors possessing comprehensive knowledge of cosmic principles and advanced technologies. The Epic of the Apkallu presents them as figures who brought order from chaos and taught the arts of civilization. But the fuller context reveals that this teaching violated explicit prohibitions established by the senior Anunnaki hierarchy. Cuneiform tablets from Sippar describe the Watcher's methodology for transferring forbidden knowledge, revealing sophisticated understanding of human psychology and learning processes. The beings did not simply provide information. They altered human consciousness to enable comprehension of concepts that exceeded normal cognitive limitations. One tablet describes how the Watchers used crystalline devices to modify human neural pathways, temporarily expanding intellectual capacity to allow absorption of advanced mathematical, astronomical, and technological knowledge that would otherwise have been incomprehensible. The Book of Enoch, preserved in Ethiopic manuscripts, but drawing from much older Aramaic sources, provides detailed accounts of the specific knowledge areas the Watchers shared with humanity. Azazel taught metallurgy and weapon manufacturing. Barakel taught astronomy and celestial navigation. Kokabel taught advanced mathematics and symbolic notation. Chazakiel taught meteorology and atmospheric manipulation. Shamsiel taught solar energy applications, and Serial taught lunar cycles and tidal engineering. These were not primitive crafts, but sophisticated technological systems requiring understanding of physical principles that humanity would not naturally develop for millennia. Archaeological evidence from sites across the ancient Near East confirms the sudden appearance of advanced technologies corresponding to these accounts. Excavations at Nahal Mishmar in the Judean desert, conducted by Pesa Bar Adon between 1960 and 1961, uncovered a cache of 442 sophisticated metal objects dating to approximately 3,500 BC. The artifacts include precision-cast copper items with complex internal structures requiring advanced metallurgical knowledge, controlled atmosphere smelting, precise temperature regulation, and sophisticated alloy compositions. The manufacturing techniques employed principles of material science that would not be rediscovered until the Industrial Revolution. Some objects in the Nahal Mishmar hoard show evidence of having been designed as components in complex electrical systems, copper conductors, insulating materials, what appear to be primitive semiconductor junctions. The precision required for their manufacture indicates access to advanced measurement tools and quality control procedures, presupposing sophisticated understanding of electrical theory and materials engineering. Similar technological anomalies appear throughout the region during the same period. Excavations at Varna, Bulgaria, yielded gold objects manufactured using techniques requiring precise temperature control, chemical knowledge for creating specific alloys, and sophisticated understanding of metallurgical principles. The Varna gold demonstrates knowledge of electrochemical processes, including what appears to be primitive electroplating, that required understanding of electrical current, chemical solutions, and molecular bonding processes. The Sumerian text, known as the Eridu Genesis, describes the consequences of this technological transfer in terms that suggest environmental and social disruption on a global scale. Human populations with access to Watcher knowledge began developing weapons and industrial processes that contaminated air and water systems, altered atmospheric composition, and disrupted natural ecological balances. The Akkadian word describing the resulting corruption of both heaven and earth appears repeatedly in medical, administrative, and literary contexts, suggesting widespread awareness of the damage being done. Mesopotamian medical texts from the early dynastic period describe new categories of diseases appearing following the Watcher's intervention. One tablet from the University of Pennsylvania collection catalogs symptoms that appear to describe radiation poisoning, chemical contamination, and genetic mutations caused by exposure to advanced technologies. The text describes afflictions affecting entire populations simultaneously: hair loss, skin lesions, internal bleeding, and birth defects persisting across multiple generations. Enochian sources describe escalating warfare as Watcher-taught technologies were weaponized for territorial expansion. Astronomical knowledge enabled coordination of military campaigns across unprecedented distances. The resulting conflicts were not typical tribal warfare, but systematic campaigns of technological conquest in which populations with advanced knowledge subjugated those without access to Watcher teachings. The astronomical knowledge transferred by the Watchers enabled human civilizations to develop predictive capabilities that threatened established cosmic order. Babylonian astronomical texts from the Old Babylonian period demonstrate understanding of planetary mechanics, stellar relationships, and cosmic cycles that allowed accurate prediction of celestial events thousands of years in advance. The Venus tablet of Amisaduqa shows calculations requiring knowledge of orbital mechanics, gravitational interactions, and mathematical principles presupposing access to observational data and analytical tools far beyond human technological capacity as conventionally understood. Medical knowledge transferred by the Watchers included surgical procedures, pharmaceutical applications, and biological manipulation techniques exceeding anything developed by subsequent human civilizations until the modern era. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, dating to approximately 1600 BC, but preserving much older knowledge, describes surgical techniques requiring precision instruments, sterile procedures, and pharmaceutical applications, presupposing sophisticated understanding of infection control and biochemical interactions. The Ebers Papyrus contains pharmaceutical formulations using chemical compounds and preparation methods requiring advanced knowledge of organic chemistry, molecular structures, and biochemical pathways. Sumerian texts describe how Watcher-taught knowledge enabled human populations to manipulate atmospheric and geological processes using technologies that modern science would classify as weather control and seismic engineering. Lamentation texts speak of weapons that could make the earth shake and turn day into night, descriptions that appear to reference technologies capable of triggering earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and atmospheric disturbances. The escalating technological arms race created by the Watcher intervention ultimately threatened the stability of the planetary system itself. Mesopotamian sources describe competing human factions developing increasingly destructive weapons, technologies capable of eliminating entire populations and rendering vast territories uninhabitable. Texts describe weapons that could turn cities to dust and make the land like the sea. The divine response involved coordinated intervention by the senior Anunnaki hierarchy to eliminate both the rebellious Watchers and the human populations who had gained access to forbidden knowledge. The Book of Enoch describes how the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel were dispatched to bind the Watchers and intervene against their human collaborators through catastrophic events designed to reset human technological capabilities to acceptable levels. The Mesopotamian flood tablet describes simultaneous catastrophes, massive flooding, seismic activity, atmospheric disruption, and what appear to be directed energy weapons that eliminated specific populations while leaving others intact. Archaeological evidence confirms the sudden collapse of advanced civilizations across the globe during the period corresponding to the Watcher intervention. Sites throughout the ancient Near East, the Indus Valley, and other regions show evidence of rapid abandonment, massive destruction and complete cessation of advanced technological activity around 2500 to 2000 BC. The collapse was immediate and simultaneous across multiple continents, not gradual decline due to environmental factors or social pressure. The aftermath of the Watcher Rebellion established new protocols to prevent similar future violations. Mesopotamian texts describe enhanced monitoring systems, more restrictive limitations on human technological development, and systematic elimination of knowledge areas that had enabled the original rebellion. The Tablets of Destiny were modified to include specific prohibitions against divine beings sharing advanced knowledge with humans, with severe penalties for violations, including permanent exile from divine hierarchies. Surviving human populations were subjected to comprehensive memory modification procedures designed to eliminate all traces of Watcher-derived knowledge. Cuneiform medical texts describe treatments involving crystalline devices capable of altering human consciousness, removing specific memories while leaving basic cognitive functions intact. The procedures were not simply forgetting. They involved systematic restructuring of human neural pathways to make comprehension of advanced concepts impossible, even when that information was directly presented. The genetic modifications imposed after the Watcher Rebellion created humanity's current biological limitations. But the archaeological record reveals that these constraints operated within cyclical patterns designed to prevent any single human civilization from accumulating sufficient knowledge to threaten cosmic order. Across Mesopotamia and surrounding regions, excavation teams have discovered technological anomalies that conventional archaeology struggles to explain. At Tel Es-Sawan, the University of Baghdad's excavations revealed 17 distinct occupation levels, extending back to approximately 6000 BC. The lowest levels contained precision-manufactured artifacts, including perfectly spherical stone balls with tolerances measured in fractions of a millimeter, indicating access to advanced measurement tools and manufacturing techniques requiring understanding of geometric principles and material science far beyond what early agricultural communities should have possessed. Level 14 at Tel Es-Sawan yielded ceramic vessels with internal structures resembling modern electronic components. What appear to be primitive capacitors, resistors, and conductive pathways integrated into the clay matrix. Electron microscope analysis revealed metallic inclusions arranged in precise geometric patterns, optimizing electrical conductivity and energy storage. The manufacturing process required controlled atmosphere firing, precise temperature regulation, and understanding of electrical properties that would not be rediscovered until the development of modern electronics. The same archaeological level produced stone tablets covered with mathematical notations demonstrating comprehensive understanding of advanced calculus, differential equations, and complex number theory. The tablets include calculations for orbital mechanics and wave propagation, along with what appears to be early engagement with principles describing particle behavior at atomic scales. The mathematical sophistication exceeds that of classical Greek mathematics by millennia. Similar technological anomalies appear throughout the region. Excavations at Jarmo in the Zagros Mountains uncovered obsidian tools manufactured with a precision requiring diamond-tipped cutting implements and microscopic measurement capabilities. The obsidian blades show evidence of molecular-level engineering, with cutting edges only a few atoms thick, and internal structures demonstrating understanding of crystalline matrices and atomic bonding principles. The Jarmo site also yielded evidence of advanced metallurgical activities, furnaces capable of achieving temperatures exceeding 2000 degrees Celsius, far beyond what wood or charcoal combustion could generate. Slag analysis reveals the production of complex alloys requiring precise atmospheric control, temperature regulation, and chemical additives indicating sophisticated understanding of molecular chemistry and thermodynamics. The furnace designs incorporated heat recovery systems, automated temperature controls, and gas circulation patterns, demonstrating engineering principles comparable to modern industrial processes. Carbon dating of organic materials from these deep archaeological levels consistently produces dates clustering around specific periods corresponding to astronomical events documented in ancient chronological systems. Approximately 6000 BC, 4200 BC, 3100 BC, and 2200 BC. These intervals align precisely with the cyclical reset periods described in Mesopotamian, Egyptian, and Hindu astronomical texts, suggesting that technological advancement and catastrophic destruction followed predictable patterns tied to cosmic cycles rather than random historical events. The Younger Dryas period, spanning approximately 12,900 to 11,700 years ago, provides the most dramatic example of cyclical reset mechanisms operating on a global scale. Geological evidence from ice cores, sediment layers, and fossilized remains indicates rapid climate change, massive species extinctions, and widespread destruction of established ecosystems across multiple continents simultaneously. The speed and severity of these changes far exceed what natural climate variation could produce, suggesting external intervention designed to eliminate advanced civilizations that had developed during the preceding interglacial period. Ice core data from Greenland and Antarctica reveal atmospheric composition changes during the Younger Dryas that indicate massive combustion events, atmospheric contamination, and chemical alterations consistent with large-scale technological warfare or industrial accidents. The cores contain elevated concentrations of rare earth elements, synthetic compounds, and isotopic signatures suggesting nuclear reactions and advanced chemical processes. These signatures appear suddenly in the geological record and disappear equally abruptly, indicating brief periods of intensive technological activity, followed by complete cessation. Sediment cores from the Mediterranean, Black Sea, and Persian Gulf contain evidence of massive flooding events during the Younger Dryas, corresponding precisely with flood narratives preserved in Mesopotamian, Egyptian, and other ancient sources. The flooding was not gradual sea level rise due to melting glaciers, but catastrophic inundation involving water volumes that required coordinated release from multiple sources simultaneously. Geological analysis indicates artificial breaching of natural barriers, coordinated dam failures, and water management on scales, presupposing advanced engineering capabilities and global coordination. The flood sediments contain debris from advanced civilizations, manufactured materials, precision tools, and structural components demonstrating sophisticated construction techniques and metallurgical knowledge. Microscopic analysis reveals synthetic materials, engineered composites, and manufacturing residues, indicating industrial processes requiring advanced chemistry and materials science. The debris appears in flood layers across vast geographical areas, evidence that advanced civilizations existed throughout the ancient world before being simultaneously eliminated during the Younger Dryas catastrophe. Underwater excavations in the Persian Gulf, conducted by international teams using advanced sonar and submersible technology, have mapped extensive urban complexes buried beneath 40 to 60 meters of sediment deposited during the Younger Dryas flooding. The submerged cities show evidence of sophisticated water management systems, precision stone cutting, and architectural techniques requiring advanced engineering knowledge and coordination between specialized construction teams. A submerged city complex near the Strait of Hormuz spans approximately 300 kilometers and includes structures demonstrating understanding of seismic engineering, foundation design for unstable soils, and architectural principles requiring advanced mathematical knowledge. The buildings employed complex geometric designs, precision-fitted stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons, and construction techniques that eliminated the need for mortar while creating earthquake-resistant structures. The engineering required to design and construct these buildings presupposes access to advanced surveying tools, materials testing equipment, and construction machinery comparable to modern capabilities. Sonar mapping reveals that these submerged cities incorporated sophisticated astronomical alignments requiring comprehensive understanding of celestial mechanics, precession cycles, and long-term astronomical phenomena. The urban layouts align with stellar positions as they would have appeared 12,000 years ago, indicating civilizations with advanced astronomical knowledge and precision measurement capabilities. The alignments track multiple stellar systems simultaneously, suggesting understanding of galactic structure and cosmic relationships that would not be achieved by human astronomy until the development of modern telescopic technology. The precision of these astronomical alignments exceeds what could be achieved through naked eye observation alone. They track stellar positions with accuracy measured in arc seconds, indicating access to instruments comparable to modern astronomical equipment. The calculations required to predict stellar positions across precession cycles presuppose mathematical knowledge, including spherical trigonometry, complex number theory, and computational methods that would not be developed by human mathematics until the computer age. Similar underwater archaeological sites have been discovered in the Mediterranean, Black Sea, and other bodies of water that experienced massive flooding during the Younger Dryas period. Each site shows evidence of advanced urban planning, sophisticated construction techniques, and astronomical knowledge exceeding the capabilities of subsequent civilizations in the same regions. The consistency of technological sophistication across geographically separated sites indicates a coordinated global civilization with shared knowledge systems and communication networks that enabled standardization of advanced technologies and scientific understanding. Off the western coast of India, sonar surveys conducted in the early years of this century revealed structures beneath the Gulf of Kambat that appear to date to the same period of pre-Diluvian civilization. The formations extend across a vast area of the seafloor and show regular geometric patterns inconsistent with natural geological processes. Stone artifacts recovered from the site include tools and vessels demonstrating manufacturing techniques that align with the anomalous technologies found at inland sites of comparable age. The ocean had preserved what the land had erased, another quiet testament to the reach and consistency of whatever civilization had existed before the great waters rose. Genetic analysis of human populations provides additional evidence for cyclical population bottlenecks corresponding with archaeological evidence of civilizational collapse. Mitochondrial DNA. Studies have identified multiple severe population contractions in human genetic history, aligning precisely with the chronological periods when archaeological evidence shows advanced civilizations vanishing from the record. These bottlenecks were not gradual population decline due to environmental pressure. They were sudden, severe reductions in human numbers that eliminated entire genetic lineages simultaneously. The most severe genetic bottleneck occurred approximately 12,000 years ago, corresponding exactly with the Younger Dryas period and the destruction of advanced civilizations revealed by underwater archaeology. Genetic analysis indicates that human populations were reduced to small, isolated groups, possessing only fragments of their predecessors' knowledge and technological capabilities. The genetic diversity loss was so severe that current human populations show less variation than would be expected from natural evolutionary processes, suggesting that survival was limited to specific groups selected according to criteria that were anything but random. Y chromosome analysis reveals that post-bottleneck human populations were dominated by a small number of male lineages. These surviving lineages show genetic markers indicating they were concentrated in specific geographical regions, corresponding to areas where ancient texts describe flood survivors and post-catastrophe human populations. The genetic evidence confirms that survival followed patterns aligning with accounts preserved in Mesopotamian, Egyptian, and other ancient sources describing the selective preservation of specific human groups. The genetic bottlenecks show evidence of artificial selection pressure that eliminated human lineages carrying specific genetic traits associated with enhanced cognitive capabilities, extended lifespans, and physical characteristics that ancient texts attribute to antediluvian human populations. Comparative analysis of ancient DNA extracted from pre-bottleneck human remains reveals genetic variants associated with enhanced neural development, improved immune function, and metabolic efficiency that are absent from post-bottleneck populations. The elimination of these variants appears to have been systematic rather than random. Archaeological evidence from Mesopotamian sites reveals that post-flood civilizations retained fragmented knowledge of their predecessors' advanced technologies, but lacked the theoretical understanding necessary to maintain or develop these systems. Excavations at Babylon and other major cities show evidence of attempts to replicate advanced technologies using simplified approaches that produced inferior results. Each generation possessed less knowledge than the previous, a consistent, steady narrowing of what was understood and what was possible. The royal tombs at Ur contain artifacts demonstrating sophisticated metallurgical knowledge, precision casting, complex alloy compositions, manufacturing techniques requiring advanced understanding of material science. However, analysis of the manufacturing techniques reveals that the craftsmen were following prescribed procedures without understanding the underlying principles that made those techniques effective. The artifacts show evidence of attempts to replicate earlier examples using simplified methods that produced visually similar but functionally inferior results. The knowledge had become ritual without remaining science. Similar patterns appear in astronomical knowledge preserved in Mesopotamian mathematical texts. The calculations show sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics and cosmic cycles. But later versions use approximation methods and simplified procedures that produce less accurate results, suggesting that scribes were copying earlier calculations without understanding the theoretical foundations that had made accurate prediction possible. The pattern of technological and intellectual degradation following cyclical reset events appears consistently across multiple civilizations and geographical regions. Each post-catastrophe civilization began with fragments of advanced knowledge inherited from predecessors, then systematically lost that knowledge over successive generations, until the next reset event eliminated what little remained. The cyclical nature of this process indicates not accidental cultural evolution, but systematic management, designed to prevent human civilizations from accumulating sufficient knowledge to threaten established cosmic hierarchies. The cyclical degradation patterns documented across ancient civilizations have reached their predicted culmination in contemporary society, where the systematic limitations embedded in human consciousness by ancient genetic modifications now manifest as accelerating technological dependence, moral dissolution, and spiritual disconnection. The mathematical precision of ancient predictions becomes evident when examining how modern global challenges align with the cyclical patterns described in cuneiform tablets, suggesting that current technological and social developments represent the final phase of a programmed decline that will inevitably trigger the next reset mechanism. Modern humanity's relationship with technology demonstrates the artificial dependency systems that Mesopotamian texts describe as built-in limitations designed to prevent genuine advancement. The widespread adoption of digital devices and artificial intelligence represents not technological progress, but increasing reliance on external processing systems compensating for deliberately restricted cognitive capabilities. Neurological studies reveal that regular use of digital devices produces measurable reductions in memory formation, attention span, and abstract reasoning abilities that mirror the symptoms of divine intervention described in Akkadian medical texts. The phenomenon of digital dementia, documented by neuroscientist Manfred Spitzer and confirmed by brain imaging studies across multiple research institutions, shows that prolonged exposure to digital interfaces causes atrophy in brain regions responsible for complex reasoning, long-term memory formation, and creative problem-solving. The neural changes are not temporary adaptation, but permanent structural alterations, reducing cognitive capacity across multiple domains simultaneously. These changes replicate the effects of the consciousness-limiting interventions described in cuneiform tablets, suggesting that modern technology serves the same function as ancient divine weapons in restricting human intellectual development. Artificial intelligence development follows patterns that ancient texts describe as humanity's attempt to recreate the divine consciousness it once possessed but can no longer access directly. The current AI revolution represents not a breakthrough, but desperate compensation for cognitive limitations, preventing humans from processing information at the speeds and complexity levels their predecessors achieved through enhanced neural capabilities. Machine learning algorithms can process vast datasets and identify complex patterns, but they lack the intuitive understanding and creative synthesis that cuneiform tablets describe as natural human capabilities before genetic modification. The global surveillance infrastructure enabled by digital technology replicates the monitoring systems that Mesopotamian texts describe as necessary for managing human populations within acceptable parameters. Smartphone networks, internet tracking, social media monitoring, and facial recognition systems create comprehensive surveillance capabilities that exceed anything described in ancient accounts of divine oversight, yet serve the same fundamental function: ensuring that human activities remain within predetermined limits and triggering intervention when populations approach dangerous capability levels. Genetic manipulation technologies, including CRISPR gene editing, synthetic biology, and human enhancement research, represent modern attempts to reverse the limitations imposed by ancient genetic modifications. However, these technologies consistently produce results that remain within the boundaries established by original Anunnaki programming. Gene therapy can address specific medical conditions, but cannot restore the enhanced longevity, cognitive capacity, and physical capabilities that ancient texts attribute to pre-flood humans. The limitations appear to be embedded at fundamental levels that current scientific understanding cannot access or modify. Research conducted at institutions including the Broad Institute, the Wellcome Sanger Institute, and the Beijing Genomics Institute has identified genetic sequences appearing to function as control mechanisms limiting human potential. These sequences do not correspond to known evolutionary adaptations, but show characteristics of engineered code designed to prevent expression of enhanced capabilities. Attempts to modify these control sequences through gene editing consistently fail or produce unstable results, reverting to original limitations within few generations. Transhumanist movements advocating technological enhancement of human capabilities demonstrate the unconscious drive to recover abilities that ancient texts indicate humans once possessed naturally. However, technological enhancement consistently produces results within the parameters established by original genetic programming. Cybernetic implants, neural interfaces, and pharmaceutical enhancement can improve specific functions, but cannot restore the integrated enhancement of consciousness that cuneiform tablets describe as humanity's original condition. Environmental destruction patterns follow the cyclical degradation sequences described in ancient texts with mathematical precision. Climate change, ecosystem collapse, and resource depletion occur at rates aligning with timeline predictions preserved in Hindu, Mayan, and Mesopotamian chronological systems. The Kali Yuga calculations indicate that environmental destruction should accelerate during the final phase of the current cycle, reaching critical levels that trigger intervention around 2025 to 2030 AD, according to various ancient chronological frameworks. Atmospheric carbon dioxide levels measured at monitoring stations worldwide show acceleration curves matching the exponential degradation patterns described in Sanskrit texts outlining the final phase of Kali Yuga. The Vishnu Purana specifies that environmental destruction during this period would follow mathematical progressions that human populations would be unable to control, despite possessing the technological knowledge necessary for environmental restoration. Current climate data confirms this prediction. Humanity possesses the scientific knowledge and technological capabilities to address climate change, but lacks the social coordination and long-term thinking necessary to implement effective solutions. Ocean acidification rates, monitored across research stations from the Arctic to the tropics, follow curves that correspond with disturbing precision to the degradation timelines embedded in ancient cyclical calculations. The Mayan astronomical tables, when extended and interpreted through the lens of modern environmental data, describe conditions for oceanic imbalance that align with readings gathered at monitoring buoys deployed only in the last few decades. The ancient calculators did not know the names of the compounds involved, but they appear to have known the shape of the curve, the slow acceleration, the threshold, the tipping point beyond which correction becomes impossible. Whether this knowledge was prophetic, or simply the product of having witnessed such thresholds before, across previous cycles, is a question the tablets do not answer directly. Social fragmentation and the collapse of traditional knowledge systems replicate the patterns that ancient texts describe as precursors to cyclical reset events. The breakdown of family structures, loss of cultural continuity, and elimination of traditional crafts and knowledge systems follow the degradation sequences documented in cuneiform tablets describing pre-flood civilizations. The Sumerian lamentation texts describe social conditions that precisely match contemporary phenomena: breakdown of intergenerational knowledge transfer, loss of practical skills, and increasing dependence on centralized systems for basic survival. Traditional craft knowledge, metalwork, agriculture, construction techniques, medical practices, disappears at rates exceeding what technological replacement would require. Skills requiring generations to develop vanish within decades as populations become dependent on industrial systems and digital technologies providing inferior but more convenient alternatives. This knowledge loss follows the patterns described in ancient texts as preparation for cyclical reset events, eliminating accumulated human capabilities. The loss of traditional medical knowledge demonstrates how modern populations voluntarily surrender capabilities that ancient texts indicate were originally natural human abilities. Traditional healing systems, including Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and indigenous medical practices, possess diagnostic and therapeutic capabilities that modern medicine cannot fully replicate despite superior technological resources. These traditional systems accessed information about biological processes through direct observation and intuitive understanding that required cognitive capabilities modern humans no longer fully possess. The global financial system demonstrates the artificial complexity that ancient texts describe as characteristic of civilizations approaching reset events. Financial derivatives, algorithmic trading, and complex debt structures create economic systems that no individual or group fully understands or controls. The system's complexity exceeds human cognitive capacity, requiring artificial intelligence systems and automated processes operating according to programmed parameters rather than human decision-making. Economic inequality patterns follow the mathematical progressions that ancient texts describe as inevitable during the final phase of civilizational cycles. The concentration of wealth among small elite populations, while majority populations experience declining living standards, replicates the social stratification that cuneiform tablets describe as preceding flood events. The Akkadian Atrahasis epic describes similar economic conditions. Elite populations possessing advanced technologies and accumulated resources, while majority populations struggled with basic survival needs. Social media platforms and digital communication systems create the illusion of global connectivity, while actually fragmenting human consciousness into isolated information bubbles, preventing the unified awareness that ancient texts describe as humanity's greatest threat to established cosmic order. Digital communication systems replicate the linguistic fragmentation imposed during the Babel intervention, creating apparent global communication while ensuring that different human groups remain incapable of genuine coordination or unified action. The psychological effects include reduced empathy, shortened attention spans, and decreased capacity for abstract reasoning that mirror the consciousness limitations described in cuneiform medical texts. Esoteric interpretations of Sumerian wisdom suggest that the current degenerative cycle contains potential escape routes for human populations capable of recognizing and transcending their programmed limitations. The Mesopotamian texts describe hidden knowledge preservation systems maintaining advanced capabilities through secret lineages and esoteric schools operating outside the main civilizational cycles. These systems allegedly maintain the consciousness enhancement techniques and technological knowledge necessary to survive reset events and establish post-catastrophe civilizations with higher capability levels. However, the same texts indicate that access to these preservation systems requires genetic markers and consciousness capabilities that current human populations largely lack due to accumulated degradation across multiple cycles. The escape routes exist, but remain accessible only to individuals who have somehow avoided or reversed the genetic modifications that limit normal human potential. Such individuals, the texts suggest, are extremely rare and become increasingly scarce as each cycle approaches its termination point. The Tablets of Destiny allegedly contain detailed specifications for the timing and mechanisms of the next reset event, but these tablets remain in the possession of the entities that established the original control systems. Human attempts to access or decode this information consistently fail because the information is encoded using consciousness capabilities that modern humans no longer possess. The reset timing is coordinated with astronomical cycles that are currently approaching critical alignment points. Archaeological evidence indicates that previous reset events were precisely timed to coincide with specific astronomical configurations, galactic alignments, solar system positioning, and cosmic radiation cycles occurring according to mathematical patterns spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Current astronomical calculations indicate that several of these cycles are converging during the 2020 to 2030 period, suggesting that the next reset event may be imminent according to the timing mechanisms described in ancient texts. The convergence of environmental collapse, technological dependency, social fragmentation, and astronomical cycles creates conditions matching the reset triggers described across multiple ancient sources. The mathematical precision of these convergences suggests that current global challenges are not random historical developments, but the culmination of program sequences designed to justify intervention. The ancient texts indicate that breaking the cycle would require access to the original consciousness enhancement technologies and genetic modification capabilities that were eliminated during previous interventions. Capabilities requiring cooperation from the entities that established the control systems. Cooperation that the texts suggest will not be provided as long as humans remain within their current limitations. The cyclical pattern documented across ancient civilizations indicates that the current phase of human development represents not progress toward greater capabilities, but the final stage of a predetermined decline culminating in another reset event. The technological and social developments of the modern era serve not to enhance human potential, but to complete the degradation process that began with the original genetic modifications imposed by the Anunnaki. Humanity's fate, these texts suggest, was sealed at the moment of artificial creation. The intervening millennia have simply been the playing out of programmed limitations, ensuring permanent subservience within a cosmic hierarchy that views human consciousness as a managed resource rather than an independent evolutionary development. The warnings preserved in Sumerian records were not prophecies to be avoided, but technical documentation of inevitable processes embedded in the very structure of human existence. The degeneration is not a failure of human civilization, but the successful operation of control systems designed to prevent humanity from ever achieving the independence and capabilities that would threaten established cosmic order. The cycle will continue until the controlling entities determine that alternative management strategies are required. A determination that lies, these ancient voices quietly suggest, entirely beyond human influence or control. And so we arrive at last at the end of this long and ancient journey. This quiet walk through corridors of clay and starlight and forgotten centuries. Let the weight of all these distant eras rest gently now, like dust settling back to earth after a long passage of wind. There is nothing you need to hold on to, nothing you need to solve or understand tonight. The past is patient. It has waited thousands of years, and it will wait a little longer. Feel your breathing grow slower, softer, each breath a gentle tide moving in and out. The stories of ancient cities and sleeping kings and great slow cycles of time dissolve now into something warm and formless. The way a dream dissolves when morning is still far away. Let your thoughts drift without direction, like clay tablets carried softly downstream, settling somewhere quiet and dark and deep. You are here. You are safe. And the night is long and still. Good night, and sleep well.